Bloomburrow Spoiler season is off to a big start already. The reveal trailer launched today from Wizards and is available on the Magic YouTube channel. The first card we see is Three Trees City, the home of the main cast from Bloomburrow. This card rewards you for having a Kindred deck where you get to name a creature type and then pay 2 and tap for as much mana as that many creatures you control of the declared type. We were introduced to the Bloomburrow Bird faction and told that they're focused on righting injustice. The card shown is the Plume Creed Mentor, a 2/3 flyer that allows you to put 1/1 counters on a creature without flying whenever you play a creature with flying. Castral the Windcresser rewards you for dealing player damage with birds, letting you deploy a bird from hand or graveyard with a finality counter on it. Add a 1/1 counter to all birds you control, or draw a card. Next, we see the first booster fund treatment for Bloomburrow, which will be anime raised foils. Castral is shown in this artwork, and the showcase treatment, also with Castral, is going to be called Woodland Frame. Mousefolk are up next, and we see the Seaglaive Mentor, who has Vigilance and Haste. When Seaglaive Mentor becomes the target of a spell for the first time each turn, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. The first new mechanic is Offspring, and we see it here on the Flowerfoot Swordmaster. You can pay an additional cost when you cast a spell, then make a token copy of it that's a 1/1. The Swordmaster also gives other mice a +1/+0 bump when it becomes the target of a spell the first time each turn. Looks like many of these creatures will have specific Offspring tokens. We see one of the tokens here for War and War Leader. The War Leader gets to pick from one when attacking to create a 1/1 rabbit token that's tapped and attacking, or attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Interestingly, the Offspring tokens explicitly say they have a mana cost. I don't think that will save them from being bounced though. Our first rabbit is Phineas Ace Archer, a 2-drop with Vigilance and Reach, and when Phineas attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control that's a token or a rabbit. If you control 10 or more power after that, you draw a card. Valley Questcaller lets you scry when a rabbit, bird, bat, or mouse enter, and all those creature types also get +1/+1. Gift is the second new mechanic. We see on Parting Gust that when you cast a spell, you may promise your opponent a gift. There will be a variety of gifts, they won't all be this 1/1 fish token, but in this case, if you promise the fish, then you get to exile a non-token permanently. Otherwise, it comes back at the end of the next end step with a +1/+1 counter. Batfolk are the next kindred type. Starseer Mentor has flying and vigilance, and I assume that all the bats will have flying, but we'll see. Then at the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. This card is also a Warlock, so it'll have some synergy with crime spells from Thunder Junction. There are also Raccoon Folk shown here with Mara Trash Tactician. This card has a third new mechanic, Expend. Mara lets you gain red or green mana for each raccoon you control, and if you expend 4, then you gain 3 life. If you expend 8, you can exile the top 2 of your library and you can play those until the end of your next turn. Expending is as simple as paying that amount in mana cost to cast spells. There's also an anime version here of Mara. Next, we see some of the lizard folk. The Fireglass Mentor allows you to exile your top 2 and play them until end of turn, if at the start of your second main phase an opponent has lost life that turn. Camellia the Seedmaster grants other squirrels Menace, and if you sack a food, you create a 1/1 squirrel token, or you can forage for 2 mana, allowing you to exile 3 from grave or sack a food token, and then put a +1/+1 counter on each squirrel you control. Forge is another new mechanic, employing the exile 3 from graveyard or sacrifice of food, plus an additional cost trigger to its effect. Osteomancer Adept allows you to tap it, and then forage, to play creature spells from your graveyard. You have to pay their mana cost and the forage cost each time, and they enter with a finality counter. Tidecaller Mentor has Menace and Threshold. Threshold is met when he enters, you can return 1 non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Ratfolk also have Insect Companion, so I'm excited to see what kind of combo cards they might have. Alania Divergent Storm lets you take your first instant, sorcery, or an otter spell that is in Alania and copy it, if you let your opponent draw a card. Then you can pick new targets for the copy. Lily Splash Mentor has Reach and lets you pay 3 to exile a creature you control, then return it to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. Nice little buff to your board as you need it. Our first mythic is Glarb Calamity's Augur, a 3-drop Death Toucher that lets you look at your top deck at any time and allow you to play lands or cast spells of mana value 4 or greater from the top of your library. You can also tap Glarb to surveil too. Glarb has stolen an egg from this bird Maha, its Feather's Knight. With flying, trample, and ward equal to discard a card, it also makes all creatures opponents control to have base toughness 1. Seems like it's going to be pretty powerful. Ygritte, Eater of All, has ward sacrifice of food, and turns other creatures into food artifacts in addition to their other types. And if a food hits the graveyard from the battlefield, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on Ygritte. Both of these 2 creatures are Calamity Beasts, elemental creatures found on Bloomburrow. We see the Rao card, and he has become an Otterfolk. We learned previously that all planeswalkers or travelers of Bloomburrow become animals when they arrive. There are no humans on this plane. Ral gains an additional loyalty counter whenever you cast a non-creature spell. His +1 creates an otter with prowess. The -3 lets you draw 3 and discard 2. Then his ultimate at -10 lets you draw 3 and grants an emblem, causing your instants and sorceries to have storm. Modal spells are also on Bloomburrow, but are not tied to the spree mechanic. Season of Weaving lets you spend 5 paws, and paws is what this cost is called, on any of the 3 modes on the card. And on all these cards will have a 1, 2, or 3 paw cost mode. You can also pick the same mode more than once, allowing you to draw 5 from Season of Weaving's first mode. Class spells are also returning, allowing you to spend mana as a sorcery to add additional effects to the class. Artist Talent is revealed and lets you add level 2 and level 3 bonuses as a sorcery. The basic lands are shown off here, and that they have full art versions for each season. There's 4 different artworks for each basic land type. There will be commander creatures as well. First up is Bellow, Bard of the Brambles, that lets non-equipment artifacts and non-aura enchantments become 4/4 creatures with indestructible and haste. These creatures also let you draw a card if they deal combat damage to a player. Zinnia Valley's Voice is a bird with +X/+O, where X is the number of other creatures you control with base power 1. Your creature spells also gain Offspring to generate those base power 1 creatures for Zinnia. Hazel of the Root Bloom lets you pay 2 life to tap tokens and add mana in any combination of colors. You can also duplicate a token you control at your instep, or if it's a squirrel, make 2 copies. Mrs. Bumbleflower has Vigilance, and whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it gains flying until end of turn. The second time this effect happens, you get to draw 2 cards to even it out. We see a rabid version of Tameo in the commander cards, allowing you to draw an extra card, tap opponent's creatures, and build up to a draw 3 and emblem that lets you cast spells from hand without paying their mana cost. Many other creatures and planeswalkers are visiting Bloomburrow and have also become animals. We see Jace the Mind Sculptor here as a fox. Other items that come to Bloomburrow are also transformed, like this teeny tiny Sword of Fire and Ice we see as a special guest card. July 26th will be the start of pre-release, followed by a launch on MTG Arena on July 30th. Wide release will be on August 2nd. We'll also have this Flubs the Fool and Thundertrap trainer as the Buy a Box promo and bundle promos. And that's all the spoilers we got today in the reveal. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most. Thanks for watching. Take care.